Hi, I'm Juliet from Channel Factory. We're here at MadFest 2023, and I'm here with Michael Brown from UM. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Juliet.
So first of all, I want to say congratulations. I know that you've just been awarded an IPA Fellow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Juliet. Thank you.
So can you tell me a little bit more what that is, or why did you win an IPA Fellow?
Well, so the IPA is the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, and that is the main trade body that exists to, I guess, promote the interests of the advertising agency community in the UK. And I guess fellowship is just a way that they have to recognise people that have contributed to the industry in some way. I suppose the main impact that I've had is probably around diversity, equity and inclusion.
Okay.
I've worked on a few different projects around that.
I guess leading on from that then, what is the work that you and everybody at UM are doing around diversity and inclusion at the moment?
So UM obviously is a media agency, and our bread and butter is campaigns, media. And so it's really important to us that in terms of our output, the work that we do, the campaigns that we deliver for our clients, that diversity, equity and inclusion is factored into the process really at every stage. So there's two main areas to our work. First of all, I guess what's in front of the screen, the content, the creative that goes out. We've got a big partnership with UN Women and the Stereotype Alliance, which is an amazing global project that we created as IPG 6 years ago. So it was Unilever, UN Women and IPG that came together to found the Stereotype Alliance, and that is a project all about channeling the cultural influence of advertising to try and make a positive difference in society by tackling stereotypes and stigma through positive portrayal and that kind of thing. So yeah, if anyone wants to find out more about that, really keen to share, because we want to have as many people as possible around the table from the advertiser, brands, agency, media owner community. It's a great example actually of different companies coming together to work cross-competitively. So we as IPG sit at the table with WPP and lots of other agencies, for example.
So it's not just an IPG initiative?
No, we initiated it, but it's open to all.
Okay.
And it's very much the kind of project where more is more. The more people at the table, the more people pulling in the same direction, realizing that advertising nowadays has such a kind of prevalent, all-encompassing role when it comes to culture, changing social attitudes. You know, conventionally we use it to drive purchasing, but there are other important applications around attitude change, like tackling stigma, opening people's minds, changing the way that people kind of predefine people for different communities. And so, yeah, definitely keen to hear from others who might be up for joining the Alliance.
It also shows that it's not, like, we talk a lot about conscious advertising. It's not something to win, or it's not something to be first at. It's something that, as you say, everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction. So it's good to be cross competitors, and I think it's the same on our side, on more of like the tech side. It's not something that we want to be, you know, necessarily the best at and the first at. It's something that we want everybody to get involved with.
A good illustration of that, I think, Juliet, is a big piece of research that we as UM initiated and organised last year called Women and Heritage, which was really, I think, the only of its kind, a big research study that looks at the lived experiences of ethnically diverse women in the UK. Amazing study. It had representation of lots of groups that have never been heard before. You know, typically BAME, horrible terms, grouped together people with diverse ethnic heritage. And we brought together a study that had enough representation of Black African women, Black Caribbean women, Indian women, Pakistani women, Bangladeshi women, just really granular detail to see how the lived experiences of different communities vary. And we have delivered that to the industry and to anybody that wants to use it. So definitely that kind of open source approach to DE&I, I think is really important, because obviously the purpose is much greater than any of ours. It's greater than one agency, and it's all important. It's about people's freedom. It's about people's ability to live free from prejudice, which is really important. The other aspect, Juliet, where we're making a difference is, you know, that was about creative representation in ads and in content. as you know, Better World Media is our conscious media investment strategy. That is such an important area, probably even more important given that we're a media agency. That is about working with our trading arm Magna, brilliant people there who have been doing great work to try and come up with a framework to quantify which media partners really mean it when it comes to making a positive difference. We all know there's a whole load of guff and propaganda that comes out through ESG promises, websites. Magna, our partners in IPG, they've got a really fantastic approach to qualifying which partners are sound and which ones are walking the talk. And then on top of that, as you read, we've created Better World Media, which is a directory of different diversity-owned, diversity-targeted, or purpose-minded partners who we encourage our clients to spend with. And we've seen over the last few weeks Galdem going out of business. That is really not good news for the media industry. It's an amazing website and platform. The content was excellent. It was an incubator for fantastic journalists who work at big broadsheet newspapers now. It's a brilliant platform. And unfortunately, the commercial realities of running Galdem were prohibitive. And actually, if brands had lent into Galdem and supported them through partnership investment, active approaches towards advertising, funding them, then perhaps
Might still have them.
we might still have them. Yeah.
Well, this is actually something I wanted to ask you about because we are out in market and talking about conscious advertising a lot. And sometimes, now rarely, but sometimes we get pushback from agencies and brands who say, yes, we know this is important, but it's not a priority right now for the client, so it's maybe something for next year, or maybe come and speak to us about it after Q4. Or we'd like to do it, but not on this plan. Have you come across that at all in the work that you guys are doing in or how is it being embraced by clients?
Well, I have to say, if anything, our clients seem to be more and more action-focused, more and more sincere in terms of their intentions around conscious advertising and diverse media investment. Quite a few of them have now got annual targets in terms of having a certain proportion of their annual budget that is invested with diverse partners. And so, I think we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing our clients are becoming even more emboldened to really make a difference. And that's obviously really encouraging to see.
Is there any particularly that you feel have really embraced it?
Well, I think we're lucky to have clients like Amex, Spotify, Mattel, Johnson & Johnson, now called Kenvue, their healthcare business. And they really understand their responsibility to support platforms like Galdem through partnerships. Did some amazing work for Nicorette, for example, over the last few years. We've done 2 phases of this big partnership. All of it rooted in an insight, which is that LGBTQ plus people are, if I remember correctly, 40% more likely to smoke.
Wow.
It's a situation I know myself all too well, Juliet, as a kind of LGBTQ smoker, long-term quitter. The reasons why it's complicated, lots of it is kind of conflated, mental health things, that kind of thing. Also just a cultural tendency in the communities to smoke. But it's emphatic, like dramatic over-indexing amongst LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. And so in order to address and reach those audiences, we've partnered Nicorette with Gay Times, and we've created this amazing content, videos, website, written content that feels so authentic because it is leveraging the unique, authentic, positive editorial tone of Gay Times. And it's been really well received and awarded. So we're so proud of that. And actually, we tend to use that one as a case study quite a bit, simply because it's a very tidy example of having the insight from the data, our audience insights, and following it right through to finding the right partner to bring the campaign to life with. And actually, the results have been fantastic. And historically, one of the big pushbacks with inclusive marketing has been the partners don't have enough reach.
Yeah.
Classic. And I'm so pleased to say that pushback has really dissipated over the last year or so. So I think people have become awakened to the fact that the context of exposure to a brand ad is so important. And if a brand is seen, for example, supporting brilliant platforms like Black Balance, a fantastic community publisher and platform for black women in the UK and beyond, or Amalia, which is a brilliant platform for Muslim women in the UK and beyond. People are realizing that the context of having your brand seen in that environment, it's a statement of support for those communities. People are very savvy. Audiences are savvy. They see that is an implicit statement of support for these communities. It's really cool.
It also feeds into something we talk about a lot, where you don't want to be excluding massive chunks of the population. So I think even you mentioned it on stage earlier in the talk that you did with Joanna, that you don't just have to reach that audience by going on like Malia, for example, but if people are excluding those communities, they're excluding their audience. I mean, everybody is a shopper. Everybody needs J&J products, for example.
No, well, just going back to Amalia, I think, if I remember correctly, 7% of the UK population are Muslim. It's about 5 million people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of spending power. Obviously,
5 million people.
Slightly exploitative, opportunistic, commercially minded way of looking at it, but we're all in business, and that's a really important segment. Amazing to see big brands like Tesco understanding that community, the Muslim community and other communities, need to be communicated with in a way that involves authentic representation in the advertising, but also supporting publishers like Amalia in order to reach audiences like the Muslim community in a way that feels authentic.
Also, 5 million people is it's more people than there is in the whole of Ireland. So when you put it that way, sorry, obviously close to my Ireland, but when you put it that way, there's an entire country of people that you could be excluding through the tactics that you're putting your media out with.
What a great way of putting it. There's a whole media industry in Ireland that exists to serve that group of people.
Yeah.
And that one segment here in the UK gets minimal attention. Really interested in Riz Ahmed, the actor. He's got a brilliant campaign all about Muslim representation in film and TV. I think we need to see lots more Muslim representation here in the UK that is positive and not simplistic, that doesn't play to traditional tropes. And I think working with partners from those communities is an essential way of doing it.
Yeah, I agree. But do you think as an industry we need to be doing more to have more representation and diversity in the decision makers and like the people who are working for the brands and people making decisions at an agency level?
Yeah. Well, I think yes, obviously the answer. We need to have more diversity. I'm happy to see here at MadPress, it feels like there's a real diversity of people. I think in creative agencies, unfortunately, the struggle is even more pronounced of the lack of representation. In media agencies, I think we are more diverse, but there's aspects like disability, socioeconomics, there's a huge way to go.
Yeah.
The latest IPA census data shows that there's been real progress in terms of, for example, multi-ethnic representation at entry level for agencies in the UK, and also really importantly at a leadership level as well. Real gains.
Okay, that's
great. But in your average, brainstorming room around a campaign, when a creative brief is being digested, when a media plan is being built out, there is not enough diversity. And you touched on a really important question, Juliet, and obviously the answer is that it's precisely the lack of representation of the full UK population that is leading us to ignore the opportunity that exists. Because this is an opportunity. This is not a moral argument. I would like to see the same seriousness, application, focus as our industry has about, missions like devolving from cookie-based approaches to advertising, revolutionizing the way we approach commerce. Like, wow, it just shows when we all pull in the same direction, we can move the needle so far in just a couple of years. And I want to see that same seriousness and shared direction and shared pulling in order to make a difference around inclusive marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that feeds back to then the point I was saying that sometimes it's not a priority for the client. If we need it to be a priority for every single client and for every single agency,
Yeah.
and maybe that even feeds into having more representation at the table and people who are making those decisions. Like, I don't understand how it cannot be a priority right now or not for this plan.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we're living in very busy times, hybrid world, very overwhelming times. We've never been busier, it feels like. And
Yeah.
so it requires for people to lean in a little bit in order to understand what the commercial argument is. Like we've been talking about with the Muslim community, or we look at the LGBTQ plus community amongst 18 to 24s. If I remember correctly, it's over a third of people within that group that self-identify as not being 100% straight. That's a huge proportion of the population.
Yeah.
And so publishers like Pink News, fantastic publishers, are so well positioned to communicate in a relevant way with what is going to be a growing part of the population. They've just been listed by the Times as, I think, the 67th or 57th fastest growing business, Pink News, in the UK. And it's because they've got a massive audience that is engaged with their content. And so, it does take a bit of time to lean in and appreciate why is this important. But once the pennies drop, and once you start seeing the benefits of it, like campaigns with engagement rates that you've never seen before,
Yeah.
brand lift rates that beat all the other campaigns that you've done by a margin, once the pennies drop, I think you don't go back.
It almost becomes as well, I feel like almost every, not every brief, but almost every brief that we see is, how do we reach Gen Z?
Yeah.
How do we reach Gen Alpha?
Yeah.
And it's almost, you have to merge the two together to think brands are confused as to how they can reach Gen Z by using the traditional media channels, and then the conscious conversation is the second thing. Whereas actually, it sounds like from what we're saying with the new generations coming through, the two, we have to not think about, here's my budget for conscious, but actually you can talk to that younger audience through being more inclusive and diverse in your initial approach.
Gen Z is very diverse ethnically,
Yeah.
in terms of sexuality. You can see it from the content that tends to resonate, the TV shows that they tend to watch, the films that are popular. Even if a person in that group is not LGBTQ plus themselves, the fact that LGBTQ plus people are way more prevalent in that age group means that they will have a much more open-minded approach towards creative that represents and reflects LGBTQ plus people. In terms of ethnicity, we've made some progress. I think Channel 4 have got some great research that shows that black representation in advertising has really dramatically improved. There's more of it. But Juliet, you know what? Representation, it's not always positive. Sometimes it's kind of secondary characters. We want to see more positive portrayal, protagonistic portrayal of minoritized people. Whilst there's been improvement around black people in ads and representation of them, there's been hardly any around people with disabilities,
Yeah.
Asian people, Muslim people, and so there's a long way to go. But there are really important progress steps happening. Clients are appreciating the importance of it, and they are investing in it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is what is going to lead agencies and media partners to put it up the priority order. If clients are asking for it, clients like Diageo, they won't work with agencies and partners that don't take this seriously.
Yeah,
And there's more and more. Diageo used to be an outright. There used to be, Unilever and Diageo used to be kind of like few case studies of brands that would push for progressive products and practices and diverse teams within their partners. But there's actually tons of different brands now. Even ones, the challenge I think historically is that some brands I think have been a bit hesitant to find their voice when it comes to purpose. I've heard it years ago, not so much recently. Oh yeah, that's for Unilever, that's for Nike, that's for those types of purposey brands. But no, actually, we see now brands from all different categories know it. It's really important to take an unequivocal stand on the big social issues of our day. Obviously, sustainability as a slightly separate issue,
Of course.
but super important one is relevant to all brands and all people because
Yeah.
it's our shared world. So it does feel like there's been a real awakening over the last year in terms of this coming up the priority order.
Yeah, I
level.
agree. It also, someone said to me a few months ago, I feel it's kind of old trope, but no decision, standing still or not doing anything is doing something. And doing something, sorry, what do I mean to say is, by standing still and doing nothing, you've made your choice to go against it in a way.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know where to begin, just do something.
Totally. Silence is complicity.
That's much better than what I want to say.
Inaction is 100% going with the flow and allowing all of these different challenges in society to be perpetuated. I think clients now and brands, I think, are being a bit braver about putting their foot in the water. Even if they're not Nike or Unilever, we're seeing it. More and more brands are taking a stand. I love an example actually from Mexico. You see, far away example, Doritos. Doritos have now got a year-on strategy for LGBTQ plus advertising, representation in all of their ads. I say this is half Colombia, but Mexico is not the most progressive place in terms of acceptance and inclusion of LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah.
So it's extra admirable that Doritos have nailed their colors to the mast as a snacking brand to support that community, despite the danger of potentially alienating some of the more closed-minded people in Mexican society. And they are a nacho. So if you're a nacho and a tortilla chip and you can make a difference, honestly, there's so much scope for all brands to make a difference. Advertising the group that unites and advocates for the interests of LGBTQ plus people in the ad industry. They've really highlighted, in fact, as Jerry, I was just talking about the campaign that Jerry from advertising and his team were bringing to light, which is that, just saying to brands, if you're going to do it sincerely.
You have to do it sincerely, exactly. And people can, audiences can pick up on insincerity for sure, and audiences can pick up on when it's not a true passion.
It's a really important one. I think a lot of brands, are based outside of London in much less diverse parts of the country.
Yeah.
So it is really important to bring in consultants, experts from minoritized groups. There's brilliant people. Lydia Amwan here in the UK wrote this report called the Black Pound Report. She's an expert in advertising to multi-ethnic audiences. Creative Equals are another brilliant organization that can run research in order to understand how different creative ideas are going to resonate with different communities. So there are partners you can bring in order to minimize the risk of doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But like we say, silence is complicity. And so actually doing something, despite there being some chance of getting it slightly clumsily wrong, or it not being 100% right, in my opinion, is better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah, I agree. We have the same thing at Channel Factory, that we, it's not up for us to say, this is how to do it. We've had a lot of external consultation and partnered with other groups to come in and look at our tech and look at what we're doing, and not just have us say,
sure.
this is the best way.
Well, obviously, it's been in the news quite a bit over the last few weeks, obviously, with the whole AI central focus at Cannes.
Yeah.
The role that having a very skilled, prevailingly white, male-dominated tech world has in engineering, coding, different tools, algorithms, and I think, we have to take a look at who we are, how we operate, because we are prevailingly, almost absolutely, we are white male-founded businesses. And so we do have to raise a mirror to ourselves in the way that we do things. But you know what, Juliet? Here at the program at MadFest, there is so much brilliant content around
100%.
DE&I. You can see that the industry is taking it seriously. The sessions, they're not kind of fringe sessions held at the back of the site. They are some of the main sessions, a bum on every seat, and it shows that this is no longer a kind of fringe, slightly HR-y topic. This is very much one of the main areas of focus of media and advertising, and that's really encouraging to see. So I'm feeling very, very hopeful at the moment.
As you said, it's not just 2% of the media plan. It's now, how do we apply it to the first idea and the first stage of planning? How do we bring it into the core of how we do advertising, not just on the fringes or a tick box on the side?
It's an interesting idea to take a a tactic off of the fringes of the plan and making it more of a kind of core part of the strategy. I think, unfortunately here in the UK, we're seeing fewer and fewer diverse platforms and publishers exist. Obviously, we talked about Galdem going out of business, and that is really worrying. We've talked about it already, and unfortunately, we do have not as many as we should, diversity owned, diversity targeted publishers and platforms, and that rests with advertisers and agencies to incubate, encourage, mentor, and above all, invest in these partners. On top of that though, Juliet, obviously relevant to Channel Factory, I think channeling investment towards creators, so people from minoritized communities, by directing campaign investment towards their channels on YouTube is a really, really important part of inclusive marketing. And whilst in the UK we don't have loads of diversity targeted partners, in some of the European markets across EMEA and beyond, there is really an abject lack of these partners. And so I think solutions like Conscious are going to be really important in order to help brands use that budget to make a positive difference.
Great. I think we'll leave it there.
Nice. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you very much, Michael, for coming to talk to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for filming.